When I turned 17, my family said that I was grown up and had to fend for myself, and kicked me out of the house. 10 years later, they came running back, begging for money. You never forget the day your family decides you're no longer their responsibility. For me, that day was my 17th birthday. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday. I remember because the leak in the hallway ceiling had started dripping again, and I'd placed an old cooking pot beneath it. The house always smelled like damp drywall, cigarettes, and whatever was cheapest at the deli counter. But it was home. Or at least, it used to be. That morning, I came downstairs expecting maybe a card. A happy birthday at the very least. My parents, Martin and Susan, were sitting at the kitchen table, both with coffee in front of them, both looking strangely serious. My younger brother, Dylan, was nowhere to be seen. Probably still asleep. "Sit down," my mom said, without looking at me. I hesitated. Something about her tone felt off. Dad cleared his throat. "You're 17 now." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know. It's my birthday." "Exactly," he said, setting down his mug. "You're old enough to take care of yourself." I blinked. "What?" "You're not a kid anymore," my mom said. "It's time you learned how the world works." I thought it was some kind of twisted joke. Like they'd hand me a key to a car parked outside, or some symbolic speech about growing up. But the more they talked, the clearer it became, this wasn't a metaphor. They wanted me out. Today. "You've got until the end of the week to find somewhere to go," Dad added. "Don't look at us like that," Mom said sharply. We had to grow up fast, too. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. No job. No savings. No real plan. I'd always suspected my parents didn't have a lot of love left in them, not for each other, and certainly not for me, but even in my worst fears, I never imagined this. They didn't offer a dime. No ride. No help packing. Just a deadline. That night, I lay awake in my small room, staring at the cracks in the ceiling, counting the hours until I had to leave. I packed what I could in a worn duffel bag, some clothes, a cheap flip phone with half a battery life, and the only thing of real value I owned, a second-hand laptop I'd saved up for by mowing lawns 2 summers ago. The next morning, I was gone before sunrise. No one stopped me. The next few years were a blur of survival. I couch-surfed with a few classmates until graduation. Ate instant noodles more times than I could count. Worked night shifts at gas stations, cleaned offices at 3 a.m., did anything that would put food in my stomach and a roof over my head. College wasn't in the cards, at least not the traditional kind. But I found a way to learn. Free online courses. Library books. YouTube tutorials. Anything that could teach me something useful. I got into coding almost by accident. A buddy I worked with at a call center used to fiddle with websites during our breaks. One night, he showed me how to write a few lines of HTML. I was hooked. There was something intoxicating about making something work on a screen, about having control over something, anything, in a world where so much felt out of reach. Within 2 years, I was building small websites for local businesses. Nothing fancy. But it paid. By 23, I had started a freelance web development business. By 25, I had a steady stream of clients, a minimalist apartment in a quiet neighborhood, and for the first time, a savings account that didn't scare me when I opened it. I didn't speak to my family during those years. Not once. Then one day, I got a message. Not a text. Not a call. A Facebook DM from Dylan. "Hey. Mom and Dad need to talk to you. Can we call?" I stared at the message for a long time. His profile picture was recent, he looked older, harder. The boy who used to play video games on my bedroom floor had become a man I didn't recognize. I didn't reply. The next day, another message. "Please. It's important." I answered on the 3rd attempt. I don't know why. Dylan's voice was quiet on the line. Hesitant. "Hey. I know it's been a while." "Yeah," I said. 10 years. "I know. I'm sorry. I should have called sooner." Silence. He cleared his throat. "They need help. Financially." There it was. What happened? They're behind on everything. The house, medical bills, utilities. It's bad. Dad lost his job last year. Mom's sick. I exhaled slowly. They said they'd understand if you didn't want to help. But I know they're hoping you will. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I asked, do they remember my 17th birthday? There was a long pause. I don't know, Dylan said. I don't think they've ever talked about it. Then they don't get to ask me for anything. He didn't argue. Just said, I had to try. That night, I lay in bed, the echo of that phone call still ringing in my head. After all these years, after everything they'd done or failed to do, they expected me to forget it all. To pick up the broken pieces of their lives like they hadn't shattered mine a decade ago. And yet, some part of me still felt the pull. The guilt. The weight of blood. But another part, stronger now, louder, knew better. I had built something out of nothing. Without them. Despite them. I wasn't going to let them pull me back into the fire I'd crawled out of. After Dylan's call, I expected silence. But it didn't last. A week later, I got an email. Subject line. Your family needs you. It was from Susan, my mother. I hadn't heard from her in 10 years. Not a birthday. Not a holiday. Nothing. And now, suddenly, I was family again. The email was longer than I expected. 4 paragraphs. She talked about how hard the past few years had been. How Dad's back injury had taken him out of work. How her health had declined. She mentioned the mortgage, the mounting medical debt, and a mountain of bills that we just can't climb on our own. Then the final line. We always hoped you'd come back. We were just trying to teach you to stand on your own. I closed the laptop and sat still for a long time. We were just trying to teach you to stand on your own. Like it had been a lesson. A noble act. They hadn't sent me into the world with love or support or even a bag of groceries. They pushed me out like I was a problem they were finally rid of. And now that their world was collapsing, I was supposed to save them? I didn't answer. But I didn't delete the email either. Maya noticed something was off. She always did. We were in the middle of dinner, pasta and wine, a soft jazz playlist humming in the background when she set her fork down. Something's bothering you. I looked at her, unsure how much to say. Then I told her everything. About the birthday. The eviction. The decade of silence. The sudden begging. She didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I was done, she said, do you feel responsible for them? I wanted to say no. But the truth was murkier. I feel like if I don't help, I'm no better than they were. That's not true, she said gently. You're not leaving someone out in the cold. You're protecting yourself. But what if Dylan gets caught in the middle? Then maybe talk to him. Just him. That stayed with me. I called Dylan the next day. He picked up immediately. You okay? He asked. Yeah. You? Trying to keep things together. We talked for a while. About neutral things. Work. Weather. His job managing a warehouse. Then I finally asked. Why didn't you ever reach out before? He was quiet for a moment. I was scared, he said. They told me you were bitter. Said you'd cut ties on purpose. That you hated us. Do you believe that? I didn't want to. But it was easier to accept than wondering if they really kicked you out. They did, I said. And they never looked back. He sighed. They won't admit it. I'm not waiting for that. Then he said something that surprised me. If you want to help someone, help me. I didn't know what to say. I don't want money, he added. I don't want to become like them. I'm trying not to. I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see it. Okay. Over the next month, I talked to Dylan a few times a week. It wasn't dramatic or emotional. Just two people reconnecting after years apart. We didn't pretend to be close. But something real started to grow between us. Something honest. Meanwhile, the emails from my parents kept coming. More urgent. More desperate. Dad eventually sent one. I know we made mistakes. But you're not a kid anymore. You're successful now. It's time to let go of the past. That line. Let go of the past. Like I hadn't already spent 10 years doing that. One morning, I woke up to a different kind of message. A GoFundMe page. My parents had created it. And they'd included my name in the story. Our son left home early to pursue his own dreams. We supported him as long as we could. But now, we need help. Please consider donating to save our home. They didn't say I kicked myself out. But they let people assume it. And the worst part? People were donating. Friends from our old church. Distant relatives. Even my former high school math teacher had chipped in $50. I stared at the screen, stunned. They had rewritten the narrative. Painted themselves as struggling parents of an ambitious son who forgot where he came from. And they were getting paid for it. I closed the tab and sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened a new browser window. And I started writing my version of the story. I didn't publish it right away. The piece I wrote started as a journal entry, raw, angry, a quiet explosion on the screen. But as I read it back, I realized it wasn't just therapy. It was a story that needed to be told. My story. Not the sanitized version they'd packaged for sympathy dollars, but the real one. The one I'd lived. I edited it. Trimmed the rage. Sharpened the truth. Then I posted it anonymously on a forum I used to browse during the worst years of my 20s, a place where people talked about toxic families, survival, estrangement. I titled the post, "They Kicked Me Out at 17. Now They Want My Money." It took off. Within a day, it had thousands of views. By the weekend, it was trending on the front page. People didn't just read it. They felt it. The comments poured in. My parents did this too. You're not alone. They don't want a relationship, they want a lifeline. It's not selfish to say no. It's self-preservation. Someone messaged me privately and asked, "Would you ever talk about this publicly?" I said maybe. Because for the first time, the guilt started to fade. 2 days later, the GoFundMe was taken down. I didn't ask anyone to report it. I didn't have to. Someone must have connected the dots. The post had gone viral enough that even local media picked up a summary. An anonymous story about a young man who was discarded and later turned into a piggy bank. I knew my parents saw it. Because they stopped emailing. Completely. No apologies. No explanations. Just silence. It should have felt satisfying. It didn't. Not right away. I talked to Dylan that week. He hadn't known about the GoFundMe page. He'd been in the dark like the rest of the world. "I can't believe they used your name," he said. "I can," I replied. "What happens now?" "I live my life. They live theirs." And it felt fair. Not happy. Not tied up in a bow. But fair. In the months that followed, I focused on my work. My projects. My relationship. Maya and I took a trip to the coast, just the two of us, in a borrowed camper van with no Wi-Fi and too many blankets. We cooked outside. We read in hammocks. We watched the tide roll in, then out again, like it had for thousands of years without anyone asking anything from it. One night, lying beneath a sky littered with stars, Maya said, "You look lighter." I feel lighter. Even after all that happened? Especially because of it. She nodded, then reached for my hand. "You deserve this peace," she said. For the first time, I believed her. Then came the letter. A real one. Envelope. Postage. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside was a single piece of paper. No greeting. No signature. Just 10 words. "You ruined us. I hope it was worth it." I folded the paper and tucked it away. Not because I wanted to keep it. But because I wanted to remember exactly who they were when the masks came off. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, holding Maya's hand, and said, "They'll never change." "I know," she said. "And I'll never go back." She kissed my forehead. "Good. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with being right. Not the kind that hits you like a wave at a funeral, but the quiet ache of knowing something ugly and unfixable has finally been proven true. The grief of seeing your parents for who they really are and realizing they were never going to be the people you needed them to be." After the letter, 10 words of venom written in my father's uneven scrawl, I stopped waiting for resolution. No more what-ifs. No more buried hope. I had my answer. And it was a door slamming shut. I started going to therapy again. Not because I was falling apart, but because I was finally ready to stop carrying pieces of my past around like they were tools I still needed. My therapist, Marla, listened patiently as I told her the whole story. Not the viral version. Not the anonymous post. The full thing. Names. Details. The morning I was kicked out. The dinners I skipped to pay rent. The time I thought about sleeping in my car because it was safer than the shelter. When I finished, she said something simple. You survived something cruel. But you didn't just survive. You built. I let that sink in. Because it was true. So much of my life had been focused on getting away from them that I hadn't really stopped to look at what I'd built on my own. A real job. A safe home. Love. Friendship. Peace. I hadn't just outrun my past. I'd left it behind entirely. Around that time, Dylan moved to a new city. He got a better job offer out of state, project manager at a logistics firm. Something with benefits and a salary he could actually breathe on. He called me the night before he left. I'm scared, he said. I get that. What if I screw it up? You won't. Why are you so sure? Because you're doing what they never did, you're trying. He laughed. Then said, thank you. For not shutting me out. You're not them, I said. You never were. It wasn't a grand reconciliation. It wasn't a movie ending. But it was enough. Maya and I got engaged quietly. No big announcements. No viral photos. Just us, standing barefoot in a patch of wild grass behind a coastal and we'd found on accident, rings tucked in our pockets and wind in our hair. She cried when I asked. I did too. We told close friends. A few of mine from college. A few of hers from her poetry group. No one asked about my family. I think they knew better by now. A few months later, we held a small ceremony. No drama. No speeches. Just laughter and vows under the sun. I never sent an invitation to my parents. Not because I wanted to hurt them. But because I wasn't going to make space for people who'd spent so long making sure I had none. The peace I'd always chased started to feel real after that. Not just the absence of chaos, but the presence of something deeper. Quiet dinners. Slow mornings. Knowing I didn't have to flinch every time my phone buzzed. I still thought about my parents sometimes. But not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just distance. Like an old house you used to live in that eventually got torn down. You remember the shape of the rooms, the way the stairs creaked, but it's gone now. You don't have to walk through it anymore. And that was enough. Then, one day, I got a postcard. No return address. Just an image of a lighthouse on the front. And 2 words on the back. We're sorry. No signature. No explanation. I showed it to Maya. Do you believe it? She asked. I stared at the card for a long moment. I believe they're sorry something didn't go their way. Not sorry for what they did. Are you going to write back? No, I said. Then I tossed it in the trash. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because I didn't need an apology. I had closure. 10 years is a long time. But healing takes as long as it needs to. And some wounds don't close all at once, they fade, little by little, until one day you stop checking for the scar. By the time I turned 30, I barely recognized the person I was at 17. Not just because of the job or the life I'd built. But because the shame, the fear, the constant second guessing, they were gone. And in their place? Confidence. Stability. Self-respect. Everything I'd never been taught, but taught myself anyway. I still got updates about my parents, indirectly. Dylan and I kept in touch. Not as often as before, life was busy, and he had his own path now, but enough to know that the world was still turning over there, just not with me in it. They're doing okay, he told me one afternoon. Sold the house. Downsized. Dad's health is stable. Good, I said. And I meant it. I didn't want them to suffer. I just didn't want to be their solution anymore. Dylan understood that. Maybe better than anyone. Maya and I moved to a new place, a little craftsman house near a park, with a garden in the back and a porch just wide enough for 2 chairs and a coffee table. Nothing extravagant. But it felt right. Ours. On the day we moved in, she found an old photo of me, one from high school, the only one I'd kept. I was wearing a hand-me-down hoodie, holding a skateboard, and trying not to squint at the camera. She looked at it for a long time. "You were just a kid," she whispered. I nodded. I still remember that day. I was about to leave home for good. "And they let you go?" "They made me go." We sat in silence for a while. Then she took the photo and pinned it to our fridge. "You built everything that kid dreamed of," she said. And I had. Not perfectly. Not easily. But piece by piece, choice by choice, I turned survival into something beautiful. Years passed. I got older. Wiser. Softer in some ways, harder in others. I started mentoring young people at a local community center, mostly teens from unstable homes. I didn't tell them my full story. But they didn't need it. They could see in my eyes that I understood. That I'd been where they were. That they weren't alone. One day, a boy named Malik came to me after a session. "I don't got nobody," he said. "Not really." I nodded. "That used to be me." He looked up. "How'd you make it out?" I smiled. I stopped waiting for someone else to save me. And I started building, even when it felt pointless. He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "Think I can do that too?" I leaned forward. "I know you can." And I did. One fall afternoon, years later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I wouldn't have answered. But something told me to pick up. It was my mom. Her voice was faint, older than I remembered. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't apologize either. Just said, "I wanted to hear your voice again." I didn't say much. Just listened. She told me they were in a retirement complex now. That Dad still had back problems. That Dylan visited sometimes. She asked if I was married. I said yes. She asked if I was happy. I paused. Then said, "Yes. I really am." She started crying. I didn't. I let her cry, and when she finally said goodbye, I said it back. But that was all. I didn't invite her in. Didn't offer a second chance. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And some distances aren't meant to be closed. Now, when people ask about my past, I don't flinch. I tell them the truth. I was kicked out on my 17th birthday. No warning. No help. I built my life from scratch. And when they ask how I did it, I say this. I decided I was worth more than what they gave me. That's the truth. Not a happy ending. Not a revenge story. Just a real one. I survived. Then I thrived. And that? That's more than enough.